All right, our next speaker all the way from Action, Texas is Lucie Gillette. Congratulations on making it.
I took one of those online personality tests. The website advertised that it could help me function in relationships and figure out what career is best for me. It said I could use my strengths to create a happy and satisfying life. The results told me I was an extrovert and a censor with a preserver temperament. The feedback also concluded that my score was on the border for a couple of categories. So it couldn't figure out if I was a judger versus a perceiver, or if I was a feeler versus a thinker. My personality couldn't be categorized or defined, and I'm kind of glad I don't fit in the ESFJ or INTP or the supervisor, the performer, the counselor, or high D or high I with a touch of C. I found it puzzling. Many of the questions on the test didn't even make sense. Maybe because it was the free version. There were 5 boxes in between 2 characteristics, and you check the box that best describes you. One question compared supportive versus logical. Others were compassionate versus competent, and practical versus intellectual. So if I'm more compassionate than I'm less competent, wait, now I'm being too logical and that makes me under-supportive? These man-made conclusions are just that, conclusions, endings. While they are intended to inform or shape a life, these limitations actually box us in, telling us this is the greatest amount of something that is possible or allowed. Maybe you've taken a personality test. Maybe you've been boxed in or limited by what others say about you, but no more. We're going to lift limits off today. I hear it all the time. People use their personality label as some sort of rationale. I'm not type A. I'm an introvert. I avoid risks. I'm not competitive. I'm afraid of failing. I'm the middle child. I don't do well with change. I'm just not a touchy-feely, huggy person. Parents rubber stamp their kids too. Strong little child. Terrible twos. Lazy teen, not our studious one, and the implied, not gifted and talented. Why lower the expectations? The result is we end up not even trying in areas where we've been verbally denied and limited. We begin to water down our abilities and capabilities, thinking it's just who we are. I'm not an athletic person. I'm not analytical. I'm not musical. I'm getting too old for that. My brother is the creative one in the family. I don't do hospitals. There's no way that I could ever speak in public. Maroon isn't in my color wheel. I can't cook. I don't dance. I don't feel comfortable with that. That's just not me. Maybe we go so far as to accept a spoken diagnosis of a disorder. I can't focus right now because I have ADHD. It's my OCD. Well, I'm genetically predisposed to anxiety. Are you still living with some age-old labels? If you feel limited by your family, your age, your income, your condition, what people have said about you, what people think of you, what the enemy has put in your mind, hear these new words spoken over you. If the Holy Spirit dwells in you, the natural world no longer defines you. The Father, your Father, took the limits off. Sarah, Moses, David, the fisherman, Paul, all had limitations. And God said, sure, in the natural, but I'm going to change you starting now. You were meant for something bigger than yourselves. The Father inflated us with His Spirit to free us to do risky things for the kingdom, to go to the corners of the globe, which aren't really corners, to expect to do the impossible, to heal the sick, to cast out demons, to live out the supernatural in the natural world. Receive His visions and love and wisdom and power, and reject the limits. How can we get there? It's by believing, by expecting and knowing that the supernatural will flood in. It's by closing our ears to the enemy who is always going to tell us that it's not going to flood in. Even with the love we give away, the enemy wants our account to read insufficient funds. There's a series of Love 101 books by Gary Chapman that outline this principle of 5 love languages. Their popularity has proliferated. More than 9 million copies of the book have sold. My friends enjoy analyzing what love language they have, and I understand the intrigue. The author, Dr. Chapman, asserts that everyone has a primary love language. It's either words of affirmation, acts of service, receiving gifts, quality time, or physical touch. He claims that we can receive love through all 5, but if we don't receive our primary love language, we will not feel loved, even though the person is speaking the other 4. Whoa. Wait a minute. That's a red flag. Even with love, we're saying we're only capable of so much. Do we have to limit love to a type? Jesus encouraged us, just as I have loved you, you also are to love one another. He's saying the natural world no longer defines us. He lives in us so we can love like him. Does Jesus have a primary love language? Absolutely not. He gave and received every type of love. He spoke tender words. He washed feet. He gave wine and bread and netfuls of fish. Quality time. He spent hours pouring into people's lives. Physical touch. He laid hands on the most diseased people on the planet. You know what I think? I think if there are 5 love languages, we should speak and receive all 5. We should be love pentalinguals. One of my favorite destinations is anywhere near an ocean. And I think the ocean is how God's love looks for us. Dazzling, vast, full of life. We love because we can receive that wide, long, high, deep love that surpasses knowledge. The ocean is flooding in. Not only is it sufficient, it is more than enough. So, we know we don't have to live the boxed-in, limited life. When we stop focusing on ourselves, our weaknesses, our psychology, our personality, and who we are in the natural, that's when the Father can dream his dreams through us. He wants you to have kingdom adventures, to see the big picture, to take risks, to rescue orphans, to run to the pain, and most of all, to love well. You are a spirit-filled creation. You are fearless. You have the mind of Christ. You can be a social person. You are a leader. You can run for office. You are a risk taker. You can rescue the broken. You aren't too old for that. You can start something big. You can love like Christ. This is you, the new, limitless, supernatural you.